Hello everybody, thanks so much for joining me. I'm going to do Margarete Miller's Collage Weekly Planner assignment for this week, and I'm on assignment number 38. So as you can see, I've got my prompts here in front of me. I've got my background paper that I'm going to be working on, and if I bring in these are the bits and bobs that I've chosen for the respective prompts. So let me take you through the prompts. So the first prompt is a song name. Well, I've chosen Mr. Rabbit by Paul Westerberg, and as you can see, I've got it printed out twice here, once in brown and the other in this sort of like a rust colour. I'm not sure which colour I'm going to go with yet. The second prompt is a group of three. Now I've chosen these three very cute little images of bunnies, and I'm going to be fussy cutting those out in a moment. The third prompt is a game or a puzzle piece. Now I've gone with a puzzle piece, and I've gone with these tiny little jigsaw pieces. So I'm going to be using one, maybe two of those on my piece in a moment or two. And I've also lifted out these. Now these aren't game pieces or puzzle pieces, these are just some random date labels and price labels, and I'm going to be using one of these, I think, to add as a bit of a background behind my puzzle piece so that it will stand out a little bit. Again, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to do that, but that's my initial thoughts. And again, as you can see, I've gone for this rusty red colour here in this packet, and these are green, both of which will work on my page. The next prompt, prompt number 4, is something imaginary. Well, I've gone for this little image of a girl. She's imaginary, she doesn't exist. And I'm also going with this imaginary image, sorry I was off camera there, imaginary image of a meadow or a garden, and as you can see, there are doves in the sky and stars. Well, you wouldn't get both of those in the daytime, would you? You've got apple blossom here, there's a bench, and there's meadow flowers down at the bottom. So I'm going with both of those as my prompt number 4, which is something imaginary. The next one, prompt number 5, is foreign language text. Well, I've lifted out a couple of pieces here. This I won't use as it is, even though it is in French. I might use it to back my song title. So that's my thinking for lifting out that piece. And these two pieces, they're slightly different in colour tone. Now I'm leaning towards this one because it will give a lighter effect there, and my little girl should stand out quite nicely against that. But I also like this one here because the next prompt is, or the bonus prompt is, something stenciled, and I've lifted out these stencils here, and I was thinking of using some texture paste, and this is, as you can see, Distress Opaque Texture Paste by Ranger, and this piece will stand out better with this white texture paste on it than if I use this one. So I will see as I get towards the end which one I prefer to go with. The other option is to use the stencil and then just put some ink through it, and that's another option that I might go with. So I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this one at the moment. I've got a basic idea in mind and we'll see how it evolves. Let's pop these things to one side. The first thing I've got to do is trim this image down. It's on Kodak photo paper, so I'm liking that effect at the moment. So I'm going to certainly trim away the white border, and because I want to get some of the foreign language book page, I'm thinking that I'm going to do it down this side to get rid of the dove images, or certainly this large one here. So I'm going to need to trim away some more of this. I've got my little girl here. I'm going to fussy cut her. Let's pop that to one side. And I'm also going to be fussy cutting my rabbits out. So I'm going to go away and get those done, and I will be back in just one moment. Here's my little girl fussy cut, and these 3 little rabbits. I think they look quite sweet actually. So there's 1 and 2, and this one is the third one. And this is the picture now that I've trimmed away the border. There's a bench there and I quite like the look of that, and I love these flowers at the bottom. Now that I've put this on here, I actually quite like her slightly off the bottom there, but she also looks quite nice actually stood in the middle of the grass there. But if she's there, I need to ground her. So what I've done is I've taken the name of my song title and I've cut out the red one, so I think I'll have her on the grass and grounded on this so that I can get a little bit of the green framing the song title like that. I could have my book text over the side here and down there. I think that that's all going to look a bit too much. I'm leaning towards having a piece up in this top corner torn away. So let's have a little bit of a play with that. I'm liking the actual text itself. So what I'm going to do is take away this white border first off, and I'm just going to roughly tear it so that it's straight at the moment. I'm not going to want this white border on the bottom, so let's get rid of that. You know what I mean, I meant the blank bit at the bottom. Maybe a rough piece up in that corner, because that's about the size I want. I will tear this more randomly in a moment. I'm just trying to get a feel for how this is going to look. Now I'm liking that. If I do that, then she can move over a little bit, I'm thinking, but at the moment, with her just off centre, she's almost balancing things, but I'm hoping this is where my rabbits will come into play. So I could just move that down a little bit. Okay, so I'm not going to want all of that, so let's again tear away another little portion like that. I'm going to roughly tear it like that, and that's giving me the effect of giving me some of the book page above the image, and also the book text is going round that leaf because I quite like having all of that showing, and it's hiding those doves. So I'm going to just play with it a little bit more. Just going to mark the edge of my page here. Roughly tear this away. So that's how I'm thinking this might go. I might put a little piece down in this corner to try and balance it up a little bit. Yeah, I'm liking that, so that that bit balances this out. Okay, so I'm liking that, so I'm going to commit with that and get a little bit of glue down on here. Gone a little bit high with my glue, so I'm going to take a bit away there. So I don't actually want to glue it down onto my page, my background piece as yet. I just want to get this piece on here, and this piece I was going to have tucked away in here, again with a couple of rows of text just showing at the bottom. Now my little girl was going to go on there, something like that. So I'm going to glue her down. There we go, so she's in place now. I'm going to do some stenciling next, and what I've decided to do first is I'm going to glue this onto my page. And looking at my stencils, I like them all, but I'm thinking this one is going to be nice and delicate, so that's the one I'm going to use. And I've also lifted out my Distress Texture Paste Opaque, but when I lifted it, when I unscrewed it, I've realised that it wasn't screwed on properly and all my texture paste is rock hard. Now, I haven't got any more of this, but I do have some Deco Art Media modelling paste, so I'm going to have to use that. Let's glue this onto my page next. Then I can use some of the texture paste. I'm going to use my texture paste over the top of this portion here, and I'm going to bring it down onto my Kodak photo paper. Now, I've never done that before, so I'm hoping that's going to work. And deliberately, I'm turning my stencil upside down like this, and I'm just going to have it like that. So fingers crossed, everybody. Oh, and before I forget, put the lid on my glue, otherwise there'll be issues there. And let's see how this goes. And this is ages old, but it's not fully set, which is good. And there we go. So I've got that on there. And I'm hoping you can just about pick it up. Now that is very, very discreet. So I think I'm going to find something to go over the top once it's dry to actually make it stand out a little bit. And I'm actually wondering whether to put a little bit down in this corner. So I've put a little bit of texture paste in the bottom corner, as you can see. What I have lifted out is some classic treasure gold here, and this is like a gilding wax, and I'm going to just rub it over the top when these two are dry and see if I can get the detail to stand out a little bit more. So as I said, I'm going to just set this aside to dry, and then I'll come back and do that. I've left this about 20 minutes. It isn't quite dry, but I'm impatient and I want to get on and finish my collage. So I'm just going to put a little bit of the treasure gold on my finger, and I'm just going to touch it over the top very, very lightly to see if I can get the modelling paste to stand out a little bit. So I'm just going to be very, very careful so that I don't get it on the background or on the book text, but just onto the raised area of the modelling paste. I'm not going to tempt fate by doing any more on this piece. I'm going to start working on this bottom piece down here now. And this area hasn't worked quite as well as up here, but I'm happy enough with it as it is. So again, I'm going to just leave this to dry for a second or two. I've lifted out one of the little jigsaw pieces, and originally I was going to back it on one of these, but I've decided that this is looking too fussy now. Everything is more or less in place, and I've still got my bunnies to go on here. So what I thought with this is that originally on this image she was carrying a basket. Now I've cut most of the basket away, but there's a little portion here on the corner of her dress that is left over from where the basket was, and whilst it looks a bit like a pocket now, what I thought was that I could put one of these jigsaw pieces on there like that. And this one actually has a little bit of a black tint to it in that top corner. You probably can't see it at all, but when I do photographs at the end, I'm hoping that you'll be able to see that. So what I thought was that I would put this on the top of that portion on her dress where the basket image is still showing, and hopefully have this looking like it's part of the detail on her dress. And that little bit that I was mentioning here, I'm hoping that that will pick up the dark folds on her dress. And now I've popped that on, I think I just want to move it up a little bit if I can, like that. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm thinking I'll have that like that, and hopefully that won't be out of place or too much out of place. And with these little things, I thought I would have them on a washing line going across here, so that it looks like they are kind of billowing in the wind, and she's trying to reach up and catch one. So something like that. Maybe if I have this one down here. Let's go and get some thread. I've lifted out some of this hemp twine, and I'm just going to tie a little knot in one end, or a little bow rather, in one end, and try and get it as small as I can, which might be easier said than done. I definitely need to use some tweezers for this, but we'll give it a go. So there we go. I hope you can see that's quite small. So I'm just going to pop it up there in the ivy and then pull this across so that it looks like my rabbits are on a washing line. Just going to hold that for a minute or two. And I'm going to put another tiny little bit of glue on that leaf there. And the joy of art glitter glue is that it dries clear. So there we go, everybody. That's my page finished. As you saw, I just glued my rabbits down to try and make them look like they were hanging from the line, and just left one or two pieces loose so that it does give them a little bit of motion. So I hope you like that. And just quickly to go through the prompts, a song name, well, I went for Peter Westerberg's Mr. Rabbit down here. A group of three, well, I went with these little rabbits up there. A game or a puzzle piece, well, I've got my jigsaw piece down here. Originally I thought I would maybe have it coming out of her hand, but I didn't really like that, so I'm hoping that it looks like part of her dress as a pocket or something like that. Something imaginary, well, the whole scene is imaginary, certainly the background and my little girl. Foreign language text, well, that's my book page here, my German text. And something stenciled, well, I've stenciled this ivy branch down there and another one up here. This one didn't work as well, but I'm quite happy with how this one looks, and the only thing I do regret is that I didn't start it up here so that it actually started on my background and then came down onto the book text, and similarly here. But I'm quite happy with how it's turned out. It's not too bad, and it definitely was needing something to define the shape of the ivy, so I'm glad I went with the treasure gold. And as always, I'll put details in the description box below the video to the products that I've chosen. So there we go, everybody. That's my finished assignment for this week. Quite quirky, and as always, I'll do some photographs at the end of the video for you to have a closer look. Until next time, in the next video, take care, everybody. Bye bye.